when the internet came, I think what I see is a very fundamental change. Suddenly consumers had much more power. So as you got into the 80s and 90s, customers now could access information about autos, make their own choices, make their own decisions. They could walk into a dealership with a printout that had the cost of that car, competitive cars. That was a fundamental technology change with the internet, but it was a fundamental behavioral change, because now customers had power, and suddenly companies couldn't just push their products out like they had done in the 60s and 70s. You had to look at the customer as a smart, intelligent agent. So, I mean, I can remember times at General Motors in the 80s when people were starting to get online invoice prices, not just retail prices. And I remember sitting at one meeting and a GM manager in the back of the room said, "What? I mean, people can get invoice prices on our cars? We got to stop this." Well, that was about how naive it was, that you really realize now consumers control this. So as you move through the internet age, you have eBay, for example, in used cars, which would be the last place you'd expect, people would trust the internet to do used cars. But eBay, because of its rating system, its guarantees on the claims from the cars, made used cars dealers be honest. If you were not a 5-star used car dealer, you just didn't sell cars. So now today on eBay, it's $20 billion worth of used cars sell on eBay, and people trust them. So you'll see people ordering cars and having them shipped without even seeing them on the basis of trust they've developed. So that fundamental technology behavior change of internet breeding trust was a big shift. Other shifts that came along, of course, after that was things like more empowerment from Google, new retailers like Amazon, which are revolutionizing the internet and physical distribution world. And then in our last 10 years, social media, which YouTube, Facebook, again, was a new revolution in how people communicated with each other. So it wasn't communicating with a company or companies communicating with the consumer, but them communicating with each other, which again fundamentally changed the dynamics of how you market. Consumer relationship management was a big thing as the internet came about. And companies started to see that as a way to better relate to the customer experience. Unfortunately, for many companies, it meant, okay, how can we do our old push marketing better? How can we identify people and target them and get ads to them or talk to them? The real potential of consumer relationship management was around the trust side. And one of the things I worked hard on in the 2000 period was trust and advocacy, and I came to call it Theory A for advocacy rather than P for push, where essentially we're trying to get confidence from our customers so they believe what we say by transparency, prove our competence that we know what we're doing and they can trust that, and benevolence, that we exist to help them, not to make money for ourselves. And I think in that context, consumer relationship management should be trust-based marketing, trying to get the trust for customers, building long-term relationships. Now, unfortunately, as you look around today, you have examples where trust has been blown completely. VW, most recent experiment. I'm not sure VW will recover very effectively. Once you lose trust, it's very difficult to get it back. Samsung, with the Samsung 7 is another example. I mean, who would have expected we would be making such big errors that we lose the trust completely with our customers? Normally, you're kind of, maybe you have some incidents of quality and delivery and you kind of patch that up, but to have trust, you really have to have the very best quality, the most innovative products, the most honest, transparent communication, and deep down you have to say, let me think of this customer kind of like my mother. What would I tell her to do in terms of buying a car? And would I recommend buying my car? Not how do I push out my excess inventory? So this is the theory, and I've been hoping a lot of companies would do it, but unfortunately, only a small set have done it. But those that have done it have really moved ahead. Amazon being, I think, a good example of that. Companies like LL Bean, where you have complete lifetime satisfaction guarantees backed up by a relationship system with basically a kind of benevolence. This is what we're trying to do for you. So I had hoped maybe that revolution from CRM as a push mechanism to real benevolence would have happened sooner. I think the leading companies are doing it. We'll see. I think trust is a long-run concept, and leading companies are going to innovate around that. But there's a lot of people who are still doing, how do we put lipstick on this pig and get some push advertising out rather than saying what we really need and how do we deal honestly with our customers.